I get this email and it says Arsenal Women's on it, and I sort of, looked at it. It sounded a little bit, one of these sort of emails where they want you to put some money in some bank account or something like that. So I brought the laptop over to my wife, and I said, "Is this sort of a bit of a dodgy email and one of these spam things?" And she said, "No, it's real."
Hello, this is the Sack Races Managers at Home, episode 7, and I'm delighted to be joined by the Arsenal women's manager, Joe Montemurro. Joe, firstly, how are you and your family?
We're all well, like everyone else, enjoying some time together and, being creative.
Nice one. I wanted to start right at the beginning. When did you know you first wanted to be a football coach, and how did you get your first managerial job?
Yeah, I think it sort of develops as a player. It sort of develops. You get that sort of sprinkling, that idea. You start to really delve into coaches and their thought process, and that always intrigued me as a player. So I probably always thought that management would be something I'd like to try or would like to be involved in. And I finished playing quite young. I finished playing at 27, and not through injury, just sort of really a little bit fell out of love with the game as a player. And I think I then started to explore the idea of management and what I wanted to, where I wanted to take it. And and I think the learning process, I think the ability to affect people, to affect the scenario, was probably the biggest thing that I enjoyed. And probably most managers who don't have a big playing career, I started basically in youth football at a local club here in Melbourne. My junior team that I grew up through, and effectively it just developed from there. And here I am at the moment.
Well, you enjoyed successful spells in the Australian women's game, winning titles, and I think you won an invincible. Did you have an invincible season as well?
Yeah, we had an invincible season in 2015 with the Melbourne City team. It was a great opportunity. It was an amazing opportunity because the City group had just been granted the franchise for the women's team. They'd been running the men's team for a few years, but the women's team, they decided to introduce it a little bit later. And I was given the opportunity to start something from scratch, which was an amazing chance to really stamp an idea away, and leave something in terms of the structures for other coaches to come in and take over. But it was an amazing season. We built a very, very good team, and we were fortunate enough to go through the whole season unbeaten.
How did you adapt from youth football into the women's game? What was the main differences?
Yeah, I got offered a position with we have our regional and state federations which have their elite teams. Basically, say a shire probably has their elite teams, and we have it in our states, in the state of Victoria. And I was offered a youth, what they call the National Training Centre, where basically they're full-time programs, selected female of the best female players, and then they sort of go on into the national teams. And I got offered this opportunity, a full-time role, which there are very few in Australia. You either work for federations or you work for the pro clubs, and we only have really 12 pro clubs here. From there, I sort of just really loved the process. Look, I've never really made that differentiation between men's and women's football. It's football for me. I coach football, and I coach, for the reasons of, as I said before, the coaching process, the learning, the effect we have on players, but more importantly, to instill a style and a methodology and a way, in creating that group which we all believe in, both staff and players. So there wasn't any real differences. I pretty much did exactly the same as I was doing in men's football that I did in women's football.
Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. And November 2017, you were appointed the Arsenal women's manager. How did you get the job, and what were your feelings before taking the job?
Wow, it was an interesting story because I received an email. It was on a Monday. It was I think it was mid October. It was a Monday, and I received an email from a colleague who I'd kept in contact with in the UK, who actually managed a couple of players that I brought over to the Melbourne City team, and we just randomly kept in touch. And he basically said, "Oh, look, there's an opportunity in the UK. The club have spoken about you because there's an ex-player that plays at Arsenal that played with you. They've been monitoring your progress and so on." At that time, I was the assistant coach with the men's first team at Melbourne City. So yeah, everything was going okay. I was quite happy and enjoying being part of it. And I got this email, and he said, "Would you be interested?" And I just said, "Yeah," just a random sort of response. He said, "I'll get back to you." 2 days after, I get this email, and it says Arsenal Women's on it. And I sort of, looked at it. It sounded a little bit, one of these sort of emails where they want you to put some money in some bank account or something like that. So I brought the laptop over to my wife, and I said, "Is this sort of a bit of a dodgy email and one of these spam things?" And she said, "No, it's real." So effectively, I responded to it and had to make a decision to sort of come over. Got the opportunity to come and chat with the people at Arsenal, and probably the rest is history. And here I am.
Brilliant. And in your first season, you won the League Cup. Second season, won the league. And before this season finished third. How do you reflect on your time as Arsenal women's manager so far?
Yeah, look, it's I try to get into opportunities in jobs where they're processes. I'm very much a project coach. I've probably had one or two opportunities in the lower leagues here in Victoria where I've had to come in and change things to immediate effect. But the whole project has been one of just finding that long-term thinking, that stability, that succession planning in squad making, but not losing sight that you are Arsenal, you are the most decorated women's team in English football, and you do still have to get the results. I'm very much, I suppose, what's the word? Gauged by the style that I play. The style is very, very important to me, and that always has to underpin the work that we do. And instilling that style has been very, very important, and obviously the belief between the staff and the players to play that style is very, very important. The results will always be there, but the style has to be the winner for us, and the way we play has to be the winner, and that's probably the most important thing. We've been, fortunate enough along the way to have, made pretty much every cup final that we've played for, that I've been involved in. Won the League Cup, and obviously the league last year was a really big, statement for us. And the way we did it was even more pleasing from my perspective.
You talked about those values. Mikel Arteta's been appointed the men's manager recently. What did you make of that appointment, and do you have much relationship with him?
Unfortunately, it's been so busy, and his appointment was, obviously, quite a quick one in regards to getting into it as quick as possible. So we haven't had an opportunity to sit down, chat, and talk. But there will be many opportunities when we get back. From afar, I must say that there seems to be a direction. There seems to be a an understanding of a way forward. There seems to be a stability in belief, and I think that's actually showing on the park. So I think it's a very, very good appointment, and an exciting appointment for everyone going forward.
And you personally, as a manager, what ambitions do you have? Do you want to sort of have longevity in the women's game and do really well, or would you like to maybe try another level at the men's game at a decent level?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult question. I've always been one to, as I said before, get into projects that are ones that building over 3 to 5 years, because I think that's the reality of building exactly what you want. You need that sort of time, whether it's squad succession, squad planning, whether it's working with the academy, whether it's getting the right staff in at times. So that was a big project at Arsenal to get all that, and we're starting to see the fruits of that now, I think. But I don't look too far ahead in regards to I'd love to be here, I'd love to be there. I'm a very fortunate and privileged person to be at a great club like Arsenal. I'm an Arsenal fan. I grew up an Arsenal fan on the other side of the world. So I'm enjoying what we're doing at the moment, and I'm enjoying the little building blocks that we're putting in place to give that longevity and sustainability. So that one day, hopefully, when I'm told to move on, or I move on, I've left a little bit of a legacy, I suppose, but the foundations for ongoing success, and that's something that's really, really important to me in terms of the way I coach and instilling the values for long-term processes.
Okay, and now for football at the moment, what do you make of the FA's decision to award Chelsea the title from the points per game system?
Look, the FA are the gatekeepers of the game in the WSL and the Championship, and their decisions are sometimes very, very difficult and very, very tough. We have to accept it. We have to accept the decisions they make, which are always difficult. And I think it would have been a very, very difficult decision to get to. So. We have to accept it. We just have to accept it, and we have to accept that we work under the rules and the regulations set out by the FA, and we have to learn from all this and learn from all these processes, and hopefully we won't have to be in this scenario ever again.
For people that don't know, how has that decision affected Arsenal and getting into Europe next season?
Yeah, at the moment, it's looking more than likely that we won't be qualifying for the 2020-21 Champions League campaign. It's a disappointment. It's a disappointment because obviously having the opportunity to do that, and there was the opportunity to qualify, was definitely something we penciled in, going forward. But again, we have to accept what the lawmakers have decided to do, and it may not suit everyone, but a decision was made, and it's the way forward. It's as simple as that. We would have loved to have been, have the opportunity to finish the league, but finish it because I think we set ourselves up in a good position to maybe continue on in where we left off last year.
Yeah, really tough. And as a whole, how do you think the pandemic has affected the women's games and players' livelihood?
Yeah, look, it's something that I think we'll know, in 6 months' time how we all come out of this. I think we have been very, very, I suppose calculated. It's not the right word or the word I'm looking for, but very, very, hell bent on being on making sure that. The players' individual welfare has been taken care of. They're all at different levels. All of them have reacted to it in different ways. So there hasn't been one way where we've said, okay, well, everyone do this and you'll be fine. And I think the mental health and the well-being of each player has been a real catalyst for us at Arsenal. And also, I think, in regards to where the players are coming from and where they've been, a lot of them have been, through World Cup campaigns, through Euros, and haven't had a real break during this time. So from our perspective, it's an opportunity for them to really refresh, really get to love the game again, and really reboot and look at where they're at as individuals. So I think from a personal perspective, it's probably been difficult, but it's also been rewarding in certain ways. The game as a whole, again, I've been asked many times, it could have been an opportunity to get the game going to while there was no football, no men's football, and we could have maybe made a big statement. But finishing the league and giving us the opportunity to restructure and reboot and refresh and go forward, I think for the now was the right thing, because I think we would have felt the knock-on effect going into the Olympics, finishing a league early, finishing a league, then starting a league again straight after with no break, finishing for the Olympics. We've got a Euros in 2022, and then we've got a World Cup in 23. So I think the effects would have been felt if we did continue the league, would have been felt further on. So I think we've adjusted accordingly, and I think we will benefit in the long term for the decisions that have been made in the women's game.
If you had to isolate with 3 managers, past or present, who would they be and why?
There's a manager called Renzo Oliveri. He's one of my mentors who I did my pro license in Italy with. He'd be one. I'd love to be with Marcelo Bielsa, and probably a modern day one would be Pochettino. I know a lot of Arsenal fans are going to probably throw something at me here, but he's not officially working with that other team. So, I think Bielsa and Pochettino would be interesting, and then the wisdom of Renzo Oliveri would probably be one that would be great to be part of.
A great mix. Joe, thanks for your time so much. We really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you back in your team in the dugout next year. And thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.